I might be putting my life in danger with this post, but I'm going to say it anyway. I don't care. This is why Iran's revolution is being kept off your front page. The images and video that are coming out of Iran are incredible. Millions of ordinary people flooding the streets, risking their lives to overthrow a theocratic regime and demand a secular government. If that were coming out of almost any other country, they would dominate the front page of the New York Times. They would lead every cable news broadcast. They would be framed as historic, courageous, morally urgent, the story of our time. Think back to the Berlin Wall and the fall of it, if you can remember back that far. That is probably one of my first clear memories as a child. Sitting in front of the television, watching those corporate news broadcasts, not fully understanding why my mother was weeping tears of joy. But right now, in Iran, that's not how it's being treated, isn't? And that absence of the corporate media and their attention, and all the Free Palestine people for that matter, it is not accidental. What you are witnessing is not a reform movement in Iran. It is not a polite debate about better governance or gentler enforcement of religious laws. Iran's revolution is a direct existential challenge to the legitimacy of Iran's Islamic regime itself. And millions of ordinary Iranians, women, students, workers, old people, they're all openly rejecting the rule by clerics. They are demanding a secular future. And that single fact makes this uprising uniquely threatening to the narrative that has shaped much of Western media and academic discourse for well over a decade. Okay, it's been a long time. I mean, think about what you're seeing coming out of Iran. There's no one saying takbir, is there? There's no crowds chanting Allahu Akbar. This is why they can't talk about it, because the dominant narrative in Western media and academic discourse is basically the fetishization of Islamic resistance. Think about it. You've seen it over and over again. Islamic resistance. It's treated as if it's the authentic voice of an anti-imperial, let's call it a struggle, right? They're considered movements that are religious and anti-Western and anti-Israeli, most importantly. They are given special context. They are given sympathetic language, constant alleged historical grievances and moral justifications, etc. This is constantly hand-waved. Their violence is hand-waved and explained away. The ideology gets softened. Their goals are rationalized as the cry of the oppressed. But a successful popular revolt in Iran against political Islam, that would shatter the entire framework. If the very people who have lived under Islamic theocracy are willing to die to dismantle it, right? Then the claim that political Islam represents some sort of organic liberation movement, it simply collapses. It becomes impossible to keep up that fiction, that fundamentalist religious rule is just a cultural alternative, right? Imposed from the outside, rather than it being a coercive system that's resisted most fiercely by the poor people who have to live inside of it. And importantly, I want to make it clear, I don't think there's a secret memo going around. You don't have to have memos going around saying, hey everybody, don't talk about Iran. You don't really need explicit instructions, although that might certainly be happening in many cases. But the incentives not to cover it are internalized by the journalist class. Stories that reinforce the existing moral framework are going to be elevated. Stories that destabilize the framework get minimized. It makes perfect sense. You reframe the revolution and the images coming out of Iran, right? Or you just quietly ignore them, right? The BBC, it took them a week to even acknowledge that it was happening. And then now they've spent the past week lying about it. Because a secular uprising in Iran does not fit the script. It exposes, I think, well over a decade of projection, Western intellectuals romanticizing a system that they never, under any circumstances for a moment, would accept living under themselves. And the result that you get from this back and forth dance of the idiots is not just omission of the facts and a wrong model of the world. They are erasing the people of Iran. By downplaying the revolution, Western media are not like showing journalistic restraint either. They're not being cautious with the story. They are denying agency to millions of Muslims who are saying clearly and unmistakably that they do not want to live under religious rule anymore. The journalist class are prioritizing an ideological narrative over the lived reality of the people that they so often claim to defend. Isn't that funny how that works out? I mean, you know, all of this silence does carry moral weight too. All the Free Palestine people, if the only thing you've said about this so far is just to downplay it and say, oh, it's no big deal because maybe the CIA and maybe the Mossad are involved. Like, if that's all you've had to say so far, shame on you. We see you. You are telling the world, whether intentionally or not, that certain forms of resistance only deserve your attention when they fit pre-approved ideological categories. That liberation is only celebrated when it aligns with fashionable theories and never when it contradicts them. So if you really care about human rights, if we truly care about human rights, about women's freedom, about self-determination, right, about building a better civilization, then this should trouble every one of us, that the journalist class is largely ignoring it, right? Because one of the most courageous popular uprisings in the world today is being treated as a footnote at best, because it undermines a deeply held story about power, oppression, and resistance. The Iranian people are doing exactly what so many Western commentators praise in the abstract, abstractly praise it. That's risking everything to tear down a system that governs through religious coercion. They claim to be against it. Turns out, dead silent when it's actually happening. Now, if this story were being told honestly and prominently, it would force them to confront their own sharp, painful hypocrisy. I know it must hurt. It hurts me not hearing you. It hurts me not seeing you stand up for them. Wow, we're never going to forget that you were silent either. And that is precisely why this entire thing is being kept out of sight.